The exact moment UFC fighters turned evil. A heel turn, as used in professional wrestling, is an entire character and public perception reversal. The virtuous guy changes into the villain. The fans begin to despise him, frequently for valid reasons. They begin watching, hoping the villain will have his face bashed in. However, heel turns aren't exclusively used in wrestling. You can find a few if you turn on the news. Not an exception is MMA. It doesn't take much to pull off one mistake at the wrong time, and you're the story's main antagonist. Good guys are suddenly into terrible guys. Nothing is more exciting than watching a villain emerge from the octagon. In a professional wrestling, this occurs frequently, but in MMA it's quite spectacular. In this video we will share the 3 moments that really caught our eye. Number 1. Jorge Masvidal. The year of Jorge Masvidal was 2019. After crushing wins over Darren Till and Ben Askren, the previously hot and cold fighter gained momentum and popularity. He defeated Matthias to win the BMF belt at Madison Square Garden to round off the year. He received multiple honours, including the most valued mixed martial artist and the breakthrough fighter of the year. He is not new. He handled 2 weight categories. He weighed 155 at first, he entered 170. He suddenly seized control of the entire planet. He was the most adored boxer on the team for a while. Fans admired his bravado and fashion sense. His popularity increased even further as he agreed to a last-minute championship match against Kumar Usman. The battle that we all assumed would be the first main event of UFC 251, or hey, Mosfet vs Kumar Usman, has undergone a significant shift. Fans were expecting that Masvidal would deal some punishment to the reigning champion, who was somewhat of a disliked character in the UFC because he had prevented the tournament from collapsing. Masvidal had a strong opening frame, but Usman won and Gamebred was defeated. A roaring burst of applause greeted him after the fight. The crowd was solidly behind him. He performed it for 5 rounds and did his best. Man, they were peaceful moments. After the first fight, he stopped fighting. Since the initial bout, he hasn't used a W. How did he obtain this? The fight was just seen. What are you going to say to them? Keep the skeptics at bay. The worst that he had shaken hands with the MMA community's arch enemy. After talking a lot of discussions and preparing for the rematch against the head of his boxing battle versus was Askren at UFC 261. The way to stand out from the group by leaving someone as close to death as you reasonably can. When Masvidal could not support any trash talks, I'm going to whoop your ass off on. His reputation was severely damaged. Myself, I don't require anyone. What? I don't require anyone. I'll kick your ass on my own. He would suffer his first career-ending, devastating knockout at the Pillow Hand's hands, personally suffering far more than pound-for-pound goals. The crowd was even divided when he squared up against Colby Covington, the self-described MMA villain, far from Masvidal being the MMA world's hero in 2019. The attack on Covington did not endear him to the MMA community. It has been very difficult to hear a UFC fighter who has caught on camera ambushing a customer outside of a South Beach steakhouse before going under arrest and openly dismissing a highly anticipated fight with Burns in favour of pursuing and pleading with an injured Conor McGregor for the past 6 months. This didn't occur overnight. Unlike previous entries on the list, it took some time for supporters to start criticising Masvidal. Since his first defeat to Kamaru Usman at UFC 251, the hype has gradually faded and his subsequent behaviour hasn't helped matters. Number 2. Aljamain Sterling. Although Aljamain Sterling was never the most well-liked competitor in the middleweight division, everyone respected him. There was no denying his prowess as a martial artist, and his ascent back to the contender status was impressive. Sterling was once 2 and 3 years old. The Font Maestro disguised a 5-fight losing run in his last 5, earning himself a title shot. Just be respectful of that. The build-up to the title battle in which Peter prevailed was as tense as it could be for an elite pay-per-view. When the final bell rung, the champion easily defeated the challenger. Aljamain Sterling's wrestling was stopped and countered. On the ground, he was no match for Yawn. Peter Yan was poised to secure a victory and successfully defend his championship when in the 4th round he landed an illegal knee to the head. When Sterling fell to the floor, he did not get up. The problem was that he was turning it on. He was beginning to take the battle. He was beginning to gain the upper hand in that struggle unquestionably. He was triumphant. Sterling was breaking. Fans anticipated Sterling to stand up and engage in combat since Anthony Smith set a new standard for the Court of Honour. A concussion, for example. He refused, he lost the combat following the regulations. Yawn. His title is uncontested. The new champion, the Sterling, seems devastated. He was booed mercilessly as he left the building. The majority viewed him as a cheating paper champion who insulted their intelligence while acting poorly. Sterling was content to play the resident bad guy in the £135 class. Number 3. Khamzat Chimaev. Dana White is constantly searching for the next Conor McGregor, a superstar who is equally adept at selling as he is fighting. These unicorns are quite rare, but Dana White found Khamzat Chimaev in 2020, a wrecking ball without a match that oozes power and charisma. He engaged in 3 fights over a few months, including twice in 10 days. Throughout it all, he was only slightly punched. The young man is serious when he says he wants to fight every weekend. He desires a weekend brawl. He was pitted against a leading candidate. Khamzat Chimaev rose to the challenge and gave Gilbert Burns a fight to remember. To honour his journey to the waterway crown, UFC sold the fans because they adored him. Dana White scheduled Nate Diaz, a superstar, to compete against his favourite fighter. Khamzat, the upcoming UFC superstar, was to be fed to the ravenous wolf during fight week. Even backstage at the prefab press conference, Boris was prepared to perform. The conference was cancelled as a result of his desire for a fight. That was okay, but it added a lot more purchases. However, losing weight of the largest platform was not acceptable. Chimaev was 7 pounds underweight. He committed the unpardonable sin while grinning. He also got into the habit of yelling at people. The booing crowd at the ceremonial weigh-ins was first, followed by the media representatives at the official weigh-ins. Khamzat crashed a press conference over 24 hours. He also commanded us to remain silent and assigned blame for the missed weight to the doctors. The unbeatable monster that most fans adore and loathe is Khamzat. That's all for this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll be back soon with another informative one. Until next time.